Hello, YouTube. Welcome to the first ever accurate basketball post on YouTube. What this topic is going to be about is today's current event, which is the NBA draft. Exciting time of year, especially if you're a rebuilding team. You get a big key piece, a big player that's going to end up shaping the future of your franchise, and it's just really fun to talk about, really fun to speculate. Obviously, with mock drafts, there is a lot of right and wrong here. Like, it's very hard to get more than maybe 4 picks right on a mock draft. But today I'm going to be creating 2 for you. So the first one that I'm going to be creating is if I was in the NBA GM shoes. So if I'm Brad Stevens, who am I picking for the Celtics? And then the second one is my personal own opinion based off kind of how I see the players wherever I think they should go. So that's number 2. So here we go. We'll get right into it. So we're going to be using the Fanspo mock draft simulator, and here we go. Let's get right into it. So what we've got, obviously, with the first pick, and this is going to be consistent in both mock drafts, is Victor Wembanyama. There's just no reason to not draft him. Now, the Charlotte Hornets, I know they said that they're not drafting for fit. They're drafting for best player, but I think that's just smoke up in the air coming from their GM. I think they're going to end up taking Brandon Miller, which is not who I would take with this pick, but that's who I think they're going to take. Then if you're the Trailblazers, I'll mention this now, definitely could trade the pick, try to bring some more veteran players that are ready to play in for Damian Lillard, but we're not going to do trades in this mock draft, and I'm going to take Scoot Henderson if I am the Trailblazers. Now, Houston, this is an interesting pick because you have Kevin Porter Jr., who's listed here wrong. He's not a small forward. He is a point guard. That's one thing that I think Fanspo needs to be a lot better at, is having proper positions for their players. That might be nice. But you take Jalen Green a couple of years ago, who's been underperforming, and then you have Kevin Porter Jr., it's always like a will they, won't they situation in Houston. It seems like some days they really like him and they want to keep him around for a long time, and then some days they seem to be ready to shop him. And I think you need to draft a guard if you're in that position. So we'll go with the next best player in this draft, which is Amen Thompson, who is a freak athlete. I'll share more about my opinion on him later in my personal mock draft, but for right now, I'm going to go with Houston drafting Amen Thompson. Now, if you're Detroit, you've got a lot of bigs already. Wiseman, Bagley, freaking Isaiah Stewart, and then your new starter, Jalen Durant. And you got Bojan, who's playing at the 4 or 3, and he was 4 at the beginning of the year, and then after they made all those trades at the trade deadline, they ended up moving him to the 3. But he's getting old, and he's a guy that I could see them actually trading pretty early on in the season, or even in this offseason here. I think he's only really got 1 year left on his contract. I know it says 2 years here, but I think it's 1 year left, and then maybe they could player option or something like that. But I could be wrong there, so don't quote me on that. I don't know that Bogdanovich is very, very, very well compared to most other players in the league. But you got Cade. You've got Jaden Ivey. You don't need another guard here. I think they don't think that they need another guard. There's no sense in doing that. What you need here is wing depth, and I think you go down to Whitmore or Jarris Walker, who you like more there. Walker played center in college, but that was kind of more of a lack of anyone else to play the position at Houston. But I think if you're going for who's already played wing, and I think that's where they will go, is Cam Whitmore. Once again, not what I would do, but what I think is the wiser decision as an NBA GM. Now, Orlando, there's a guy I really want them to take here, but I don't think they're going to do it. But based off of what news is coming out and the huge hype around Anthony Black lately, I think that they're probably going to end up going with him because they seem to love players that are versatile, can play multiple positions. There's another guy that I think is a better selection here that I'll pick in my mock draft, but I think it comes down to Jarris Walker or Anthony Black, but I think the hype right now is more around Anthony Black, so we're going to go with Anthony Black there. Now for the 7th pick for the Pacers. Pacers are all over the place right now. I don't know what they're going to do. They've got, I mean, it's not a bad team, really. I don't think so. It's just so discombobulated. And with their pick, I think you just got to go best player available here. And with kind of the spotty play of Chris Duarte lately, I think they're going to end up going with Ausar Thompson. Once again, not who I would go with. But if I'm the current GM, this is what I'm thinking. Now, the Wizards do not have Kristaps anymore. They do have Chris Paul, but Chris Paul probably won't be there too long. Now, they also picked up Tyus Jones recently in that trade from last night. And they also don't have Bradley Beal anymore. Once again, you got to go best player available here. I mean, every single year for the past, 3 years, pretty much ever since John Wall got hurt, it seems like the Wizards are going to take a point guard, and they kind of took one last year with Johnny Davis, but he's not really a point guard. He's more of a wing player in the NBA, and also had a pretty disappointing year last year. So if I'm the Wizards GM, I'm thinking that I got to go at least guard here, and kind of going along with the trend of players that are getting kind of overhyped right now, or maybe not overhyped, but just definitely getting a lot of hype right now. I think they're going to take a shocker here with Kobe Buffkin. I think it's going to be the biggest riser of the draft. And you still got Jarris Walker on the board here. And I think that is where you go if you are the Jazz. I think, once again, they like players kind of like the Magic that are very versatile, and Jarris Walker can play anywhere from the 3 to maybe the 5 in the NBA. He'd be an undersized 5, but kind of like a Grant Williams situation going on. Just, I would say, better than Grant Williams. So I'm going to go Jarris Walker there to the Jazz. Then next up, the Dallas Mavericks, who tried tanking for Victor Wembanyama. It didn't work. They don't start Christian Wood, even though they should. They're going to need a big here, which is unfortunate because it's not a very deep, big draft. The next really kind of best big after Wembanyama is Jarris Walker, if you want to really consider him a big. He's more of a wing player in the NBA as far as their standards go. I think they're going to go Bilal Coulibaly, another guy that's getting a lot of hype lately. And generally in drafts, when your stock rises towards kind of right as the draft is about to start, you go a lot higher than expected. So I think Bilal Coulibaly is going to be the player that they end up taking. Next up, the Magic. With another pick, I think they're going to take Taylor Hendricks, the local boy, keep him in Central Florida. Surprising that Hendricks falls here in this draft. I'm just doing this draft blind. I'm not, pre-thinking about everything before I actually do this, except for Wembanyama, because why wouldn't you pick Wembanyama at 1? But yeah, a little bit of surprise that he falls that far, but I think just these guys are better fits here, or at least fit the plan of what they're going for more. Now, next up, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are stacked at every single position. It's crazy. And they really don't need any more players on their team because they are going to have to let some guys go. I mean, I don't know if you play 2K like I do, but I always like to, kind of when the season ends, I like to do out some, kind of mock what's actually going to happen in the game. And every single time with the amount of picks that they have to cut someone or they're not going to be able to sign someone. And that'll probably end up, if it's me, it's Dario Saric. They'll have to just renounce his rights right away in order to sign someone. They don't have to necessarily cut someone, but they definitely have to renounce rights immediately. And I would renounce them to Dario Saric. But the weakest player in your starting five is Lou Dort, which is saying a lot because he's a great defensive player. Now, still kind of questionable at big. Don't know what Chet Holmgren's going to be, but I think you try to go for a guy that's similar to Lou Dort in that he could probably play a few different positions. Kaysen played everywhere between the 1 to 3 in college. So I think Andy's really good defensively. I think you're going to go Cason Wallace there to kind of replace Lu Dort. Now, for the Toronto Raptors, once again, a team that likes to play versatile. So I think the pick here is going to be Grady Dick. Grady Dick actually played everywhere from the 2 to 5 in college and played a lot at the 5. He's not going to play the 5 in the NBA. Way too undersized, at least physically, unless he bulks up. But that is who I would go with for the Toronto Raptors. Now, if you're the New Orleans Pelicans, you've got a lot of in-house issues going on right now, and Zion clearly doesn't want to be there. The team, for some reasons, wants him there, but maybe they don't anymore after all the issues that are coming out with him. If you don't know, do it yourself. I'm not going to be the one to break that news to you, but look at what's going on with Zion. And if I'm them, you got to go with someone that can at least maybe slide into that spot. Well, you got Brandon Ingram who can play the 4, and you got, where's Trey Murphy? Trey Murphy might be able to play there. Herb Jones might be able to play there. But these guys are more shooting guards / small forwards. And if you're that, CJ is obviously not a shooting guard. He plays point guard for them. Although sometimes Alvarado could be the main guy. But no, it's generally McCollum, Murphy, Ingram, Jones, and Valanciunas, which for some reason they have Willie Hernangomez there. Valanciunas is getting up there in age. I think you gotta go big here. Now the question becomes, what big do you take? And I think based on the hype that's been going around lately, I think they're gonna take G.G. Jackson, Gregory Jackson II. Gigi, I think, once again, not a player that I'm overly thrilled about, but a player that has been getting a lot of hype lately. So I think that's who they'll end up going with. Now the Atlanta Hawks, we're going to be halfway through the draft after this pick. Atlanta is also kind of in shambles right now, but they're deep. They're deep, man. Trae Young, DeJounte at the 1-2. Then you've got not Jalen Johnson at the 3. No way. It's DeAndre Hunter, Sadiq Bey, and AJ Griffin kind of can all play, although Griffin's more of a 2. John Collins has been spotty with them lately, and he's obviously been in a lot of trade rumors. Same with Clint Capella. I think you go big here as well. And the only really other big worth taking anything right now, and I would argue Noah Clowney, but if you're an NBA GM, Derek Lively is the better pick here. You got Onyeka Okongwu, who can slide to the 4. I think that's what they'll end up doing if they end up taking it big. Like Lively, is they'll build Lively for the future, probably keep Clint for another couple seasons, then move Onyeka to the 4 and go from there. Now, we got the Jazz again. And the Jazz, having already taken, who did I have them take? Let's see here. Jarris Walker, which is a very versatile player for him. You got Laurie, who plays the 3. He doesn't play the 4. Walker Kessler, you already said at center. 2K always seems to want to trade Kessler. Why would you trade him after having the season that he had? Now you got to go guard. You gotta. And there's a plethora of good guards available. But I think that they're going to end up going with kind of a bigger guard. And I think that guy is Jalen Hood-Schifino, who a lot of current rankings I'm seeing, Hood-Schifino is like really down low, like not even like first round talent down low. I think he's a first round talent for sure. I really enjoyed watching him play last year. And I think he's going to be a solid rotational piece to at least start out, and could probably end up being, I would say, just below all-star level player. Really serviceable starter. Speaking of serviceable starters, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves. These guys are serviceable starters. They'll never be all-stars. LeBron at the 2. That's not realistic at all. But okay. And if you're LA, I think you just got to go best player here. Best player available. I don't think that's Keontae Jordan. I think that's Jet Howard, personally. So I think they're going to go Jet Howard there. Big name going to a big organization. The Miami Heat, the Shockers, the big boys who made their shocking statement. Now, Gabe Vincent is going to be an RFA next year. Well, this upcoming offseason. You got Kyle Lowry, who fell off and he's injury prone. Then you got Hero / Max Strus / Duncan Robinson. Hero's good, but they don't start him. Duncan and Strus are decent, like role players, starters. Obviously Jimmy at the 3. Kevin Love maybe at the 4. I don't know about that. Or Caleb Martin once again at the 4, which is what they usually had. So they're playing the undersized at the 4. I think they need more shooting. They need better shooting. I think it's either Jordan Hawkins or Bryce Sensabaugh. From my understanding, Sensabaugh is a higher rated prospect. I think they're going to go Bryce Sensabaugh. Now, the Warriors, they've always needed a backup point guard every single time. I mean, they have Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole can play point guard when they need him to. DiVincenzo's not really a point guard, but they had him play in that role a lot this year. No more Draymond. But they got an easy replacement with Jonathan Kuminga. Still questionable at center, but no real centers worth taking right now. Unless you want to take Noah Clowney here. Clowney, I keep saying Clowney, it's Clowney. I should know that too because he's a very high-rated prospect in my mind. I love the way he plays as well defensively. I like defense a lot. Let's think about this. Actually great to talk about now because the Warriors 2 years ago, when they played the Celtics in the finals, they were the 2 best defensive teams in the NBA. Then you got this year, it was very especially the last game of the finals this year, a very defensive game. The NBA, like it or not, is trending towards defense. So you need to draft a defensive player here. Now, or maybe not right here, but you need more defense. You need to bolster your roster with defense. It's a very important and underrated part of the game. Now, do I think Clowney's the pick here for him? No. I would actually argue a guy like Trayce Jackson-Davis would be more of a pick for them. But I think they got to go best, and the Warriors traditionally go best player available. I think they're probably going to end up bolstering their wing depth, which is what Keontae George is. George could play the 1 through 3 as well. He played mostly the 3 in college, but obviously, as we know, you play a little bit more small ball in college than you would in the NBA. Now, once again, the Houston Rockets are up. And I don't know. It's got to be best player available for them. You just take Amen Thompson. So you got your backcourt now with Amen and Jalen. Then your small forward spot is taken up by, I guess, Jae'Sean Tate or Tari Eason and Jabari Smith, and then Alperen Sengun down at the 5, who's probably going to end up being their best player next year. I'm hoping Jabari Smith can kind of make that next leap, but we'll see, certainly. But Sengun seems to be the guy there for right now. So if you're going to play out of the 5, you're going to need some guys that can kind of chip in and come in after your starter gets, tired. Because the 5 traditionally plays usually the least amount of minutes out of your starting rotation as far as, just based on pure stamina reasons. So I think for that reason they go Trayce Jackson-Davis here. Then, next up, the Brooklyn Nets, who got 2 picks back-to-back. You just gotta go. You gotta go best player available here. You have to. And the only reason I'm having Nick Smith fall is because I don't know really what NBA GMs are thinking of him. He didn't get a lot of playtime this year, but I think this is where you take a shot on him, especially if you're Brooklyn, who seems to like to take shots on questionable players. Simmons. They're willing to take that shot on him. And I think that's where they will end up going. Now, another guy I think they're going to take a shot on is Leonard Miller, who's been rising up draft boards lately as well. I think that's the pick there. If you're Portland, I think you need, once again, more shooting off the bench. Jordan Hawkins is the pick there. Now, the Kings. The Kings are always a very shocking team. Very great to see this year. Loved it. They're in a sticky spot. I think they're going to need some wing depth. Why don't they get the other Murray, Kris Murray, I think that's what they're going to do here. Oh, Boston, no more Marcus Smart. Sorry, Celtics fans. I know he was the heart and soul of your defense, but you still got Robert Williams, who could also be the new heart and soul of the defense. My personal opinion, I think he should be a defensive player of the team here. Defensive team, all first NBA defense. My apologies. Probably first team, or maybe first team, definitely a second teamer every single year. But definitely questions at the point guard position right now. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Derek White? Malcolm Brogdon's got that injury. Peyton Pritchard, who I really like, I'm really high on. But I think he kind of maxes out at good, kind of like that Max Strus type player. I'm hoping I'm wrong because, as I said, I'm really high on him. I like the way that he plays, but I think just realistically he maxes out at that Max Strus, Duncan Robinson type player, where very serviceable starter, but not a game breaker. But you don't know who it's going to be. Maybe even J.D. Davison. I know he's been taking a lot of jumps. But Danilo Gallinari does not play shooting guard. But you need a kind of point guard or maybe like someone that can just come in, play some good defense. I think that's Marcus Sasser. Very similar player to who Marcus Smart was. You just get rid of Smart. You fill with another player that fits a similar caliber. Now, the Pacers took best player available with Ausar Thompson. I think you got to do that again. Don't think Tariq Whitehead's the best player. I think based off of draft knowledge, Colby Jones would be the best player here. So a couple more shooting guards, but I don't think that Ausar is necessarily a shooting guard in the NBA. I would say you can probably play the 2, 3, maybe even the 4. Now, with the Hornets, yeah, Brandon Miller at the second pick fits the best need that they have. Now you need some backup shooting. And for me, that's probably based off of what I said, is that when your stock is rising, you generally go higher than what you were expected to. Podziemski, he's the pick here for sure. That just seems like a Charlotte type player to pick as well. 2 really solid picks by the Utah Jazz in the first round here so far, and Walker and Hood-Schifino. I think once again you just go for best player. They have the opportunity to go for potential over player. Actually, now that I think about it, so I think Tariq Whitehead would be the pick here. I don't think he's going to be as good as AJ Griffin's going to be, which I think Griffin has gobs of potential. But I think he's going to be decent at that. And he can also play pretty well on defense. So I think that's a good pick for the Jazz there. Now the Denver Nuggets, with the second to last pick in the draft, recently acquiring it from the Indiana Pacers, who have been having a great draft, in my opinion, for this first round. I think they need to bulk up on some backup bigs. Let's have them take Noah Clowney here. And then with the last pick, the LA Clippers, you would think they want to go point guard. Not really any exciting point guards right now, at least as far as first round picks go. Like I want to take a swing here, and I think a guy that really fits kind of their mold of type of player that they like at the wing is Jordan Walsh, and that's another guy where, he's ranked 47 here on Fanspo, but he had a absolute killer combine, and that is what propels you up the draft. Like, think about it with like a Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith was a potential second-round draft pick. The year now, he obviously didn't work out, and that goes into my mindset of you don't draft players for potential or rawness. You draft them based on who's proven they can actually play. But Jordan Walsh is kind of that guy where measures really well, and then his draft stock absolutely shoots up. I actually had him in my original mock draft. It was just a lottery mock draft. Post-lottery decision where the Spurs ended up getting the first pick. He was my final pick in the lottery. I don't think he's going to go that high anymore, but I definitely think he's going to go in the first round. So, all right, there is my, if I'm the NBA GM, who am I going with? All right, now it's time for my own personal draft, if this is based on kind of just my draft rankings, what I think about the players. And this one's going to be a bit quicker. I'm just going to more rifle through it now that I've said a little bit about every team. I don't have to do the in-depth kind of, all right, if I'm this team's NBA GM, what am I thinking? This is just me picking who am I going to take if I'm all of these teams. So once again, Wembanyama, first pick. If I'm the Hornets, if I'm anyone, I'm staying away from Brandon Miller right now with everything that went on with Ja, and then obviously the situation in Alabama, which is, I've heard he hasn't tested well with teams as far as his character goes. Obviously the disappearing in March Madness there's just too many concerns with Brandon Miller for me. So I'm taking Scoot if I'm the Hornets, and you throw LaMelo at the 2, or throw Scoot at the 2. I know he's listed at 6'2" here. He has said himself he's 6'3". Probably going to do some growing as well, so maybe he hits 6'4", but I'm going Scoot. He's the second best player in this draft anyways. Now with the third pick, the Portland Trail Blazers. Once again, I think you trade the pick if you're Portland, because you got D'Lo, Anthony. They're going to have to re-sign Grant if they want him. Nurkic, they already re-signed. Shaedon Sharpe, you already got, who I think could probably plug into the 3. But you'll probably go... Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Thompson twins. I'm not. Like, these 3 guys, to me, are all guys that I'm scared are going to be busts. The Thompson twins were, they're older players playing against younger players in Overtime Elite, which is not, these are, you go to Overtime Elite to develop to go to college. You don't play in Overtime Elite to get drafted in the NBA. Now, obviously, they're very special talents, but that's what's concerning to me. It's just their competition. Are they really going to be that good? So all 3 of these guys, to me, are scary. I wouldn't want to take them. Now, you're going to have to take them just because of where their draft value is currently at. I think they go Amen Thompson here. Another guy that can probably slide to the 3, similar to Shaedon Sharpe. But that's who I'm probably going with if I am the Portland Trail Blazers. But still, once again, concerning. Not a pick I like, but a pick that's needed to be done. Same thing with the Houston Rockets, Brandon Miller here, because I'm also going for accuracy as well. So it's not totally my draft board. It's just more... I'm taking my own consideration as to what I think about these players a little bit more, but I'm going for accuracy here. I want to try to get these picks right. So yeah, that's who I'm going with at 4. Just makes sense. It's the team position they need the most, small forward. It would make the most sense to go there. Now, Detroit, I'm taking Jarris Walker if I'm Detroit. I think that's the perfect fit for them. If I'm the Orlando Magic, this is the guy that I think, Cason Wallace, he's the guy that I think is going to be the best NCAA prospect out of this draft. I know it's a bold prediction, but the way that he plays defense, he's just a ball hawk. You lose a little bit of shooting with him, but I think that can be balanced out, especially with the other shooters that Magic has in their starting lineup. Like, Paolo's really good from the mid. Franz Wagner's a decent 3-point shooter. Wendell Carter's a decent 3-point shooter. And I think Cason can develop into that as well. So I'm taking Cason Wallace here if I'm Orlando. Now the Pacers, I think they should probably go with the best shooter available, who's Grady Dick. I think that would probably be the best fit for them. I'm taking a shot at Anthony Black if I'm the Wizards. I think that's the best play that they can have. The Jazz, I would probably end up going with a guy like, I would say this is probably the right time for Asar to go. Now with Dallas, I think once again you got to go wing player here, and I think Cam Whitmore is probably the best guy to take there. He was solid when he was healthy. It's just, is he going to be healthy? That's the concern. If you're the Magic, you're going to go shooter. Now, I think went and watched. The only game that I saw of Taylor Hendricks last year was the game against Cincinnati, and he played good, but it was like a quiet good. I wasn't impressed by anything that he did. I didn't know. I actually noticed another player in this draft who was on the opposite team, Landers Nollymore. He was the kind of like, oh wow, like, this guy's good. He's next level good, but not obviously a first round talent in Landers Nolly. Personally, I really like the way that Jett Howard plays. I think Jett Howard would be a good fit here in Orlando. Oklahoma City, I think you take best player available, and I think once again, you got to go with someone that's going to replace Lu Dort eventually. Now, unfortunately, now that I think about it, there's no one quite like Cason Wallace that fits that mold, so I guess I got to replan here, rethink. I would say probably go big. Taylor Hendricks is probably the move here, especially with the unpredictability of what Holmgren's going to be. The Toronto Raptors, I think this would be a good spot for Nick Smith to go. Personally, I think that, especially with Gary Trent kind of maybe in the works, Fred VanVleet, we don't know what he's going to do. I think that would probably be the best pick for Toronto. I'm going to end up going here for the New Orleans Pelicans. I think, personally, they should take Noah Clowney. I'm really high on Noah Clowney. Once again, I think he's a defensive stopper, kind of like a Rob Williams type thing. Not as athletic as Rob Williams, but long. And I think that's a really good pick for them. Now, with Atlanta here, Kubali is probably the pick. I don't know much about Kubali, but they just seem to love stacking up on wings. I think that's where they go there. For the Utah Jazz, you already get to take Ausar Thompson, who I'm not totally convinced is going to be a great player. You already know my reasons, but I think you need more shooting here. I think Jordan Hawkins is the better player. Go with players that prove they can win. Jordan Hawkins did that. Bryce Sensabaugh did not. And I think you need to just go with players that have proven that they can play. Now, the Lakers here, I think, need to go point guard. I'm not a big fan of Kobe Buffkin like everyone else is. To me, Jett Howard was the more exciting player. So I'm going to go Jalen Hood-Schifino. I think he's a good ball handler. I think that's the kind of guy that would be coachable by LeBron. I think he might be the pick here. Then you got to go point guard, I think, if you're the Miami Heat, or you go wing to get more wing depth. But you need a shooter here that's going to end up replacing Strus or Duncan Robinson. So Bryce Sensabaugh is probably the pick here. I think if Kobe Buffkin's going to be good, this is where he's going to end up getting that very Jordan Poole-esque. Let's take Kobe Buffkin to the Warriors. Rockets, I think they need more big man depth. As I said before, let's go Derek Lively here, who, once again, very good defensive player. Just, I think Clowney has a bit of an edge over Lively as far as defense goes. Oof. What a mess this team is, the Brooklyn Nets. Go with the best player available. You take Keontae George here, and then I think you take a shot on a guy like Tariq Whitehead. Now, with the Portland Trailblazers here, you're going for best player available. Who's ready to play right now? And honestly, I think you're going to play Jordan Walsh the most if you're Portland Trailblazers. I think someone said this, it was just like a regular basic fan that said, Jordan Walsh reminds me of the guy that didn't do too much in college, but is going to have a very serviceable career. And that's exactly the type of guy that Portland needs right now to balance out their team. Hello, Chopper. This is my dog, Chopper. He just turned 1 on June 17th. Part Rottweiler, part American Bulldog. What's up, dude? Yeah, give me a few more minutes. Let me do the Kings. You're a king, but let me do the Kings. Alright, yeah, so the Kings, I think Chris Murray, once again, take the pick here. Combine the brothers. It just seems like the right move. They can play together. So I think that's the way to go. The Celtics here, either point guard or... I think they're going to take more potential here. And Leonard Miller's probably got more potential than G.G. Jackson. So I think they're going to go Leonard Miller there. Now the Pacers. Once again, I would say they should go with the kind of best shooter available. They need shooting for their team really badly. I think they're fine defensively. Halliburton's an underrated defender, but Yield's not a good defender at all. But they got like all these good defensive guys that play actually play the 4. Like Brissett and Smith, they both play the 4. They don't play the 3. I think they're going to go G.G. Jackson once again. Just potential-wise, he's probably the best guy available here. Hornets, I think you got to go wing depth now. Podziemski is probably the pick there. Or Podzinski. This is how you pronounce that. Now, with the Utah Jazz, already taking Ausar and Hawkins. They got to go big here just to get some more depth. I think this is where Trace Jackson Davis goes. For the Nuggets, once again, you need more big depth. Losing Bruce Brown is going to be big, though. They're losing Bruce Brown. Maybe get a guy that might be able to replace him in that kind of role. And a guy that works hard like that is actually Colby Jones. Colby Jones is I'm not sold on Colby Jones like everyone else is, but he's a hard worker for sure. So I think we're going to go Colby Jones there. And then lastly, for the LA Clippers, once again, I think they go with a shocker here. Maybe not like a shocker, but take a swing. And I think they're going to go for a guy like Emoni Bates. I think Emoni Bates has potential to creep into the first round because of his potential. And he's actually, he's pretty good. The skill is undeniable. It's just the personal stuff that we're not sure about. But they've seemed to be able to, they're an organization that can turn people around. So I think Emoni Bates is the pick there. So there you have it. That is my personable first round draft. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you want to subscribe, I would really appreciate that. And be on the lookout for more videos in the future. Signing off for Accurate Sports, I'm Curtis Acker.